Welcome to 7th grade math on the White Cluster. I'm Mrs. McLaughlin, and I'm going to share as much information as I can in this presentation about math in 7th grade this year. I'll start with why I teach. I teach because I love to learn, and I really see value in it, and I try to make sure that I learn something new every day, which really goes well with our theme this year of curiosity. I believe that education is the only thing that each person possesses that no one can take away from them. So it's a gift for life. You might ask, well, why math? Well, I believe that math is the only subject that by its very nature concentrates on logical reasoning. So I find that satisfying. Math education provides students with an opportunity to develop logical thinking skills, whether a student likes math or not or feels confident about it. That's an important reason to study mathematics. Students learn to think clearly and logically. My personal philosophy in the classroom, I like students to ask a lot of questions. Through their questions, they gain much more knowledge than if they're just passively listening. And it also keeps them engaged. I like to give students time to struggle with problems, and I apologize in advance for that this year because I know some of that struggle will have to take place at home remotely. But once in a while, it's really necessary to move forward in math. I like to give them open-ended questions to explore so they develop, ideas that go along with real-world situations. I don't know how much of that we'll get to do this year, but we'll try to keep that in our curriculum. I'm very positive about student ideas and thinking. They really can't answer a question incorrectly in my class because we'll always turn it into some positive or learning experience for them. They'll never have to feel bad about having a wrong answer. That's my hope. And then play. In the past, we've always had time for, group thinking and group work, and interacting with objects or problems on paper, and that's going to be a little challenging this year, but we'll try to incorporate some of that as well. Next, here's the list of subjects that we'll be covering this year. We've already done our integer unit, and we've talked about exponents and square roots, and we're moving on to geometry. In geometry, we're going to be working on circles. We're going to be working on area and perimeter. We're going to be working on surface area and volume. We'll learn a lot about angles this year and their relationships. And we'll learn about the coordinate plane and graphing, especially straight lines on the coordinate plane. Then students will move into, students will move into multi-step equation solving, and they'll use the distributive property and combining like terms to do so. We'll spend quite a bit of time on that, and they'll really advance in that area. Also, students will spend time on proportion. They did start that topic in 6th grade, but we're going to take it to the next level and have them identify when a proportion shows up in a table, a graph, or an equation. So that will be a big unit for us. They will continue their work on percents and the percent equation and add discount and markup formulas to their repertoire this year. And then we'll move on to probability. And in probability, the students will learn the likelihood of events. That's usually a fun unit for them. It's very hands-on. And they learn about, the odds of events happening, whether it's with dice or cards or whatever. So we'll be doing some of that. We still continue working on fractions and decimals. But this year we add our negative signs to them. So they're using their integer operation knowledge and applying it to fractions and decimals. The real number system, they've learned about the sets of numbers they're aware of and the sets of numbers that are to come as they advance in math in 8th grade and beyond. If there's time at the end of the year, we'll be looking at measures of center, which are mean, median, and mode. In 6th grade, students learned how to compute them. In 7th grade, they're going to learn how to apply them. So in other words, when should they use the mean or the median, or when should they use the mode versus the mean? So they get into some analysis. And then they also learn about random sampling of a population, what that looks like. And then across every one of these topics, we try to incorporate word problems. So what does a day in math class look like? Every day there's a new topic, pretty much every day. Some days we have to spend a day or two on a topic. And then there's some classwork, and I try to get around socially distanced from the students to make sure that they're catching on to a topic. We do have a check for understanding, which could be verbal or on paper, and then wrap it up. Our classes are about 30 minutes this year, so they're a little shorter, so it's a little bit challenging to get everything in. Um, Next, the only thing that students have on paper this year are their unit notes, and they're given the whole unit at once. So when they're getting notes remotely via a video that I send out, they copy their notes into their packet. Those are checked at the end of the unit. And then the rest of their materials are on Google Classroom. All the lessons, whether they're remote or in class, are posted there every day, and the date is given on those dates. Homework is given most every night. Whether you're remote or in class, it's just incorporated into your Google Classroom instructions. Mostly on Friday, there's no homework unless we're in need of more time for something. It's designed to take about 20 to 30 minutes. Students should be showing their work when possible and reasonable. And homework is, in my opinion, a very good thing. The practice is really good because we can't show every single example of a math problem in class. And so sometimes a lot of those different situations are encountered on the homework, which can sometimes lead to frustration, but it's also good because that's where their questions come from. Okay, the grading this year is standards-based. So students you'll either be told they're meeting a particular standard, approaching a standard, or not meeting the standard. So it's a little bit subjective, but I'm looking at their work. And if a student demonstrates, for example, they know how to subtract integers, then they're meeting the standard. If I'm still not 100% convinced they totally have the concept down, they're still approaching the standard. And then if they really don't show any evidence that they understand it, they're not meeting the standard. That doesn't happen all too often, but it can happen on occasion. Then the learning standards. This year, S1 will probably be grayed out because they're not going to really have the opportunity to work collaboratively, at least in this first term. S2 is actively participates during class. So if your student is raising their hand, if they're showing that they're doing the work and they're attentive, they're actively participating. S3 is, are they organizing and completing their work in a timely manner? Most of that I'll see via Google Classroom. Are things getting turned in? Are they getting turned in on time? S4, do they come to class prepared for learning? Do they have the tools they need, their iPad, their paper notes, whatever it is they're supposed to be? Is their work done? Are they able to do that day's class because they have the information from the previous day? Also, using creativity. This year, at the end of every unit, they're working on a project called Uncover the Unit, where they have to demonstrate their knowledge from the unit in a creative way. So can they creatively show how they learned the math? That's something we'll be reporting on. And S6, can they clearly explain their thinking? When there's a problem on the homework and it says, solve this problem, explain. If they solve the problem, but they don't bother to explain their thinking, then S6 is something that they need to work on. S7 attends to detail. Are they attending to detail? Are they labeling their answers? Do they show understanding that the label is important? That's one example. Okay. Extra help. Every Monday and Thursday afternoon from 2:15 to 3 o'clock, I'm available via Zoom. And I don't care which cohort students are in, they're welcome to come to those 2 extra help sessions. Now, they don't have to stay for the whole 45 minutes. They can just come and ask a question. They can come and listen if there's other kids that have questions. But I don't want them to feel they have to be there for the whole 45 minutes. They can just come with a quick question or a couple of questions and get them answered. And that's perfectly acceptable. Students needing more support remotely. So if students are having trouble getting their work done in the remote environment, on Tuesdays and Fridays, I'm now setting aside 9:45 to 10:15 on Tuesday for cohort B. So those students are at home on Tuesday. They can come to a Zoom meeting at 9:45 in case they're stuck on something that they're working on at home. And if you're in cohort A, you can come Friday morning at 9:45 if you have questions, either about Thursday or Friday's work for that week, or if you need help, organizing something, that would be a time to go. So you should be aware that these are extra Zoom times available to your students. And then the resources that I have. So I have a website. I don't use it much this year because of Google Classroom, but one thing I do want to point out to you is on my website, which you can access through the Medfield Blake School page under Teachers. I have an online textbook. So if you feel stuck on a topic or you're helping your child with a topic, there is an online textbook there. You click on the tab in the upper right-hand corner that says online textbook, and all the different units will come up with resources for you, additional problems, solutions, and how to solve them. And it's just like a textbook. It explains the topics. The other resource is Google Classroom. All the lessons are posted there under classwork. If you have not joined Google Classroom, you've been invited to do so. Please accept the invitation so you can see the work that has been pushed out for your students. You won't be able to see, I think, any grades or anything like that, but you will be able to see the work that's been pushed out and whether or not your student has completed it. Inside Google Classroom, all my posts go into classwork and they're dated. So if today is October 20th, on October 20th, it will tell you the work for that day. And all the links will be posted right below the instructions for the day. In addition, in Google Classroom, I have put in a title for all the Zoom links. So if your student needs to get on Zoom on Wednesday, all the teachers' Zoom links are there, along with the Wednesday schedule. And there's also a reference sheet posted on Google Classroom for mathematics that has all the formulas and important things that we will discuss over the course of this year. So that's always available to them on Google Classroom. Every unit is taught at the same time across the 7th grade. So all 3 of us, the 7th grade teachers, are working at the same pace on the same topics. And we try to have as close as possible common assessments on student work. Okay. I think that's everything for right now. You can always contact me. My email address is nmclaughlin@email.medfield.net. Don't hesitate to get in touch with me if you have questions. Thank you for your time.